Professor Velfax floated at the front of the advanced xenobiology classroom, his translucent form shimmering with disappointment. The Galactic Academy's brightest students from 40 different species sat before him, and today's exchange student presentation was about to begin. Class, Velfax announced, his telepathic voice tinged with barely concealed disdain. Today's presentation comes from our visiting human student. Please remember that Earth is still a Class C civilization, so adjust your expectations accordingly. 12-year-old Tommy Matthews stood up, looking absurdly small among beings that could phase through dimensions, photosynthesize dark matter, and calculate quantum probabilities instinctively. Several students literally looked down at him. The Gorvathian delegate had to shrink from her usual 20 feet just to fit in the room. "My presentation," Tommy said, pulling out what looked like a crude drawing, "is about survival." The Zilithian prince's three mouths smirked in unison. Survival? Humans die from simple temperature variations. You require constant oxygen. You can't even regenerate limbs. "You're right," Tommy agreed cheerfully. "We're pretty fragile. We die from almost everything." He held up his drawing, a child's sketch of Earth. "Our planet tries to kill us constantly. Earthquakes, hurricanes, tornadoes, volcanoes. We have tiny invisible organisms that can destroy us from the inside. We have creatures that view us as food. Our own sun gives us cancer if we stand in it too long." The class exchanged amused glances. The Krillian, whose species lived in the vacuum of space, actually laughed. "But here's the thing," Tommy continued, his young voice growing stronger. "We're still here. And do you know why?" He pulled out another drawing, stick figures holding hands. "Because we're absolutely, completely, stupidly stubborn about not dying." Professor Velfax's form flickered with impatience. "Young human, this is a science class, not 300,000 years ago," Tommy interrupted, shocking everyone. "Our ancestors were prey. Everything ate us. We had no claws, no venom, no natural armor. We couldn't fly, couldn't breathe underwater, couldn't even run particularly fast." He showed another drawing, a primitive human facing a saber-toothed cat. "So we did something no sensible species would do. We looked at the things trying to kill us and we said no. Not with powers, not with evolution, but with pure, irrational refusal to quit." The room had gone quiet. "We couldn't grow claws, so we made them from stones. We couldn't grow fur, so we stole it from the things that tried to eat us. We were afraid of fire, the thing that destroyed everything, so we captured it and made it ours." Tommy pulled out a history tablet showing images that made several students recoil. "We've been to war with our own planet for our entire existence. Ice ages? We survived by getting angry at the cold and inventing clothing. Predators? We became the apex predator out of spite. Diseases that killed millions? We declared war on death itself and invented medicine." The Vorthan student, whose species prided themselves on logical thinking, interjected, "This is illogical. You cannot simply refuse natural selection." "Can't we?" Tommy grinned. "We have members of our species living at the bottom of our oceans in pressures that should crush us. We have people living in Antarctica, where the cold should kill us in minutes. We have humans in space, where we absolutely should not exist, floating in metal boxes we built because someone dared us that we couldn't." He showed an image of the International Space Station. "We took a species that dies if it falls wrong from its own height and sent it to the moon using controlled explosions. Because someone said it was impossible." The classroom's atmosphere had shifted completely. Even Professor Velfax had stopped floating and settled onto the ground, watching intently. "But here's the real lesson," Tommy said, his 12-year-old voice carrying impossible weight. "Every species here evolved amazing abilities. You," he pointed to the Zilithian, "can survive in pure radiation. You, to the Krillian, live in vacuum. You, to the Gorvathian, can manipulate gravity itself. But when your evolution gave you solutions, you stopped looking for new ones. When nature said, 'This is what you are,' you accepted it." Tommy held up one final drawing, Earth surrounded by stars. "When nature told us what we were, weak, fragile, temporary, we said no. And then we spent 300,000 years proving nature wrong. Not through evolution, but through sheer, stubborn refusal to accept limitations. We don't have natural weapons, so we build better ones. We don't have natural defenses, so we create armor. We can't survive in space, so we bring our environment with us. Every limitation you see as final, we see as a challenge. The young human looked around the room at beings far superior to him in every measurable way. That's the lesson. You evolved to be perfect for your environments. We evolved to look at any environment and say, I can figure out how to survive that. You adapted to the universe. We're making the universe adapt to us. The classroom sat in absolute silence. Finally, the Gorvathian delegate spoke, her massive form trembling slightly. You're describing a species of reality deniers who survive through collective insanity. Tommy's grin widened. Exactly. Isn't it awesome? Professor Velthax would later mark it as the only presentation in Academy history to receive perfect scores from every student, including those who technically didn't believe in the concept of grades. The official record would note it as an adequate presentation on human survival characteristics. The unofficial record, whispered through dormitories and corridors, was that a 12-year-old human had just explained why his species scared everyone. They were too stubborn to know when they were supposed to die.